Hello, and welcome back to Tranquility du Jour, nourishing conversations about living a full and meaningful life with doses of tranquility. This is episode 616, and I'm your host, Kimberly Wilson, bringing you tranquility through this medium since 2005. So today, I'm talking about mental health and midlife. So many of you probably know I'm a mental health practitioner, and I have been for about 10 years, and clearly I'm in midlife, which is, I'm 50, but, I am seeing things that are saying midlife is 35 to 75, so it is a big chunk of our lives. And I will say the big thing that's coming up, and especially came up in the surveys that you all responded to, was concerns around mental health and physical body, of course. And what I mean by that is just like how things just don't quite work the way they used to. I mean, I had tea with a friend recently and she was like, yeah, I used to be able to stand for much longer. And, I used to be able to do more things around the house and I just feel like everything hurts. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm hearing this so much from many of you. So anyway, how do we navigate our mental health when we're dealing with this? So that is what today's about. I'm just going to share some tips, some ideas. It is by no means comprehensive, honey, because we could go on and on with this. There's so much goodness out there as we think about really taking good care of our mental health. And particularly in midlife, right? With hormonal shifts, life changes, so many transitions, bodies changing. And so I'm going to dive into this again, really tapping the surface. I do want to mention that in 2024, I plan on creating a digital course focused on midlife. So stay tuned for that, and really based on all the great input I got from the survey results. So thank you all so much for taking the time to share that. And I'll share a little bit about what it is that you all had to say, right? And, just to give you a little bit of insight. Now, before I do, I want to mention a few upcoming events, which include you going to Paris with me. So I'm over the moon to share that on October 14th, it is my last planned virtual retreat. And it's going to be happening live from Paris. And of course, I'd love to have you with me. We'll be reflecting on our values, our schedule, our ideas and ways to soften and simplify and slow in this season, creating our fall wish list, reflection, and then, of course, as we always do, the art journaling portion where we design a visual representation of what we want more of. So join me because it's really going to be a magical finale experience to virtual retreats, and will be happening live from Paris. And everyone who registers, just so you know, will be entered to win a care package from my trip, my journey, which is a real quick, just a weekend over there, a nice long weekend. And I will be getting some fun treats for you. So check that out. Details at kimberlywilson.com/virtual retreat. Also, anyone dealing with pet loss, I have a support session, a free support session happening November 14th. I am hosting Pink Friday again, which is my last planned live event of the year. And that's happening on what is typically called Black Friday, but we're going to call it Pink Friday. And the idea with Pink Friday is all about tying a bow around the year in a really mindful, intentional way, and doing a little visioning of 2024. So all the details for this is over in the show notes, which is at kimberlywilson.com/616. Now, I also want to mention digital courses are open. So I did a mental health course and a TDJ tenets course. And both of these are 5 modules, anywhere from 30 to 40 audio and video lessons. Video is in the TDJ tenets course, and a 60+ page workbook. So dive into these, and my hope is that it will help you find more tranquility in your everyday and to navigate your own mental health, particularly as we think about how it shifts in midlife. And really has been something that I feel like has been top of mind for quite a while, but especially after the pandemic and what everyone went through there. So much challenge, right? And so for you, thinking about how are you caring for and taking care of your mental health? And that is what I'm going to be sharing with you today, are some tips. Now, before I do, I wanted to also remind you, please hit subscribe button in your favorite app, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, of course, Apple Podcasts, whatever it might be. And here are some things that I wanted to share that was shared with me in the survey. So what's most on your mind at this time? Having enough money for retirement. That was a big thing that I heard from you all. So I'm going to be including that in the updated version of the book I'm working on. How my mental and physical health are changing. Hello, hearing that. Embracing who I become physically, mentally, spiritually, and loving who I see in the mirror. How to streamline my life and have more fun living. So important. How to determine what's next. Leaving a legacy. Moving towards menopause with grace and yumminess. I loved that word, yumminess. Staying well and finding meaningful things to do. What I'll do with the rest of my life. Health and relationships. How to manage my stress. Leaning into life, enjoying it versus the hustle. And how to make better use of my time, right? It goes on and on. Menopause, changing relationship with partners and reconnecting with myself, reducing stress, health and career. Anyway, as you can see, there are lots and lots of challenges that come along with midlife and also opportunities. And because I really like too how many of you were like, what is it that's next for me? Where am I going here? One person too said health and well-being, managing menopausal symptoms such as sleep disturbances, hot flashes, weight gain, and mood swings, navigating the next phase of my life. Again, on and on and on. So much goodness that you all shared in this, and I really, really appreciate it. And I've been outlining the book, which some of you may know that I got the rights back to Tranquility from my publisher. And so I'm going to be morphing it, renaming it, and morphing it with a look at midlife. So you'll see in the show notes, I'm going to put a link to the new book cover, which is just adorable and done by the same person who did the first book cover. And then I will also, you'll see a mention of the survey. The survey's closed, but I really just wanted, in case you're like, what are you talking about? I wanted to give you a visual. So you'll find that. And I'll also put a link to the new book cover in this episode's show notes. All right. So let's just dive in. Let me dive into sharing with you some ideas on how we can find and embrace mental health in midlife. So it's a transformative journey. I think we can all agree on that. And taking care of our mental health during this period is, of course, crucial for our overall well-being. And, the piece about it is that I think really happens around the age of 50-ish. Is you realize, I've been alive longer than I probably have left to live. And that can be a bit jarring. What? As when we're younger, it seems like time is infinite, right? There's just so much time. And I think that is one of the big shifts that happens for many people of recognizing the clock's ticking. Okay, that is by no means to scare or intimidate anyone. It's just recognizing really the reality, the facts. And so it's what is it we want to be doing? How are we spending our time? And for people who had children, they may have empty nests at this point. They may be caring for aging parents, and so things are just constantly in flux for so many people around this time. So the first one I want to mention that I find to be so powerful and ongoing really is self-reflection. So taking the time, to just think about, okay, what is going well in my life? What's working? What needs a little attention, a little tweak? And what are my goals here? What do I want in this next year, next 5 years, next decade? So midlife really is an excellent opportunity for self-discovery and reevaluating your priorities. Next is seeking professional help. And I don't mean this as you must do this. The idea here is just, sometimes it's we want to get a trainer, right? Or we want to get a coach, or we want to get a therapist, or we want to join a support group, or we want to start a group. I mean, the thing is to think about there are so many wonderful resources out there. And of course, you probably all know about the crisis line number 988. But being able to recognize like there are tools and guidance that can help us cope with these changes and these stressors. Number 3 is stay active. So regular exercise, of course, it has numerous mental health benefits. It boosts our mood, it reduces our stress, improves our overall well-being. If it's ballet, it can be a little frustrating, but also really inspiring, right? So finding an activity that you enjoy and making it part of your routine. So I will say, until I found yoga 20 plus years ago, I did not like exercise. I did my walking. I did my step aerobics, which was torture for anyone who remembers that from the 80s. And yet, it just was never quite like, never really stuck. It was one of those things I just needed to get through. Well, then I found yoga, fell in love, of course, and then ballet, reconnecting to a childhood passion has been so, so powerful. So what is it that you used to love doing? I mean, it could be hula hooping. There is no right answer here, but how can you get some more movement into your life? Number 4 is mindfulness and meditation. Now, I'm going to mention this because I'm always pushing this. I'm always pushing a lot of these, really. But practicing mindfulness and meditation helps it reduce our anxiety, increases self-awareness, and promotes emotional balance. So these practices can help us manage the stressors of midlife. For example, I even just mentioned to my coterie group this week, okay, one of my goals this week is just to pause, take 5 deep breaths, and then return to the moment regularly throughout the day. So it doesn't mean you have to go on a week-long or day-long or hour-long meditation retreat. The idea is just how can you get more moments of pausing and stillness in your everyday. All right, so number 5 is a healthy diet. So right now, cider donuts are out, and I'm a big fan. I am obsessed, but I cannot live on cider diets. So as we know, nutrition plays a significant role in mental health. I mean, there's been quite a few books that have come out on this recently even. And so consuming a balanced diet that is filled with fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean or plant-based proteins to support your brain and mood are critical, right? So, sometimes it's quite easy to go throughout an entire day and not have had like a whole food, lots of processed, right? Or, the yummy little bars that you might get. And so integrating nuts and seeds and apples are so lovely this time of the year. So what is it for you that would just allow you to make sure you're getting in a little bit more of this goodness? Because it really does make a difference. Believe me, I have lived on so much sugar over the years, and it takes a toll on your poor little brain. So, and your energy, and your skin. Other than that, it's great. And more addictive than cocaine. But other than that, sugar's lovely. Yeah, no, but, and I'm not saying remove it completely, of course. It's just finding a little bit more balance. And I do think that when we're younger, we can kind of get away with some things that are a little harder when we're older. And I think those of you who are in my age range would probably agree. All right, number 6, prioritize sleep. So quality sleep, as we know, is essential for our mental health. So getting a regular sleep schedule, because I will say this is one thing that tends to shift for a lot of women in midlife. So a regular sleep schedule, meaning you're going to bed at a certain time, getting up at a certain time, and creating a calming bedtime routine to ensure you get enough rest. And it does not, my love, include having your phone that you are on until the moment you go to sleep. So maybe it is as simple as you have a cup of chamomile tea, you take a hot bath, you read a physical book, you just take a moment, maybe write in your journal, you just take a moment to kind of evaluate your day and check in, right? So it doesn't even have to be a long experience, but a few moments that allows you to be good to you and to check in and not be watching the television or on your phone. And also, again, that sleep hygiene, Just so important of a really cool room, nice and dark, eye mask, earplugs, whatever it is you need. Number 7 that I wanted to mention, of course, is social connections. Now, we all know the importance of this, of course, right? And I think that it really became apparent during the pandemic when we couldn't have them in the same way of how important they are in overall wellness. So I just wanted to remind you, especially as we're moving into kind of the holiday season, of thinking about what nourishes you and maybe how can you get your next few months kind of scheduled with regard to social connections. There's so much fun stuff that happens during the holidays. There's Nutcracker, there's high teas, there's going to see gardens and beautiful like botanical gardens. I mean, whatever it might be for you, just thinking about ways to stay connected and reach out if you found yourself retreating a little bit. So I have 3 more for you. And again, these are not fully comprehensive. Mental health and midlife is a much broader topic, but I wanted to, again, just kind of touch the surface for you. And number 8 is manage stress. So we know the importance of this, and yet it is not easy. So we have 2 tools that are always at the ready for when we are overwhelmed. And one is the breath. And one is the body. So what do I mean by that? Use your breath. Check in with your breath. Notice your breath. Take 5 deep, full breaths in and out of the nose. Even right now, maybe as you're listening. So inhale deeply through the nose. Fill your belly, ribs, chest, and then release chest, ribs, and belly. And check in with your body. What do you notice? Are you feeling tight? Are you feeling achy? Are you feeling hot? Are you feeling cold? Are you feeling neutral, tingly, numb? Whatever it is, there's no right or wrong, but noticing. So paying attention to our body and our breath, 2 things we always have with us at every moment. We can come back into the moment, and they can be tools for managing stress. Progressive muscle relaxation. So it's kind of like a body scan, right? You walk through all the parts of the body to let it soften. And then, of course, you probably know about mindfulness-based stress reduction, which I took a course with John Kabat-Zinn about 9 years ago, a training with him and 200 other mental health professionals. And then I did a course to become a teacher in it back in 2015. And then I've led a couple. I find these to be really, they are, let me just say, they are very powerful. And I think I've gone through a couple of the courses too. There's also a workbook that you can buy by Elisha Goldstein, who I have interviewed on the podcast a couple times. You might find that book to be quite helpful, and it takes you through the whole course, which is usually $500 or $600 for like the price of the workbook, which is maybe $30. So mindfulness-based stress reduction, check it out because it's quite powerful, filled with wonderful mindfulness and meditation tools, and also reminding us that mindfulness can be practiced in all moments. We don't have to go into seated meditation or a body scan or a walking meditation. We can be doing the dishes. So it's all about presence. Okay, so I have 2 more for you. One is the setting realistic goals. So similar to number 1 about reflection. So reflection is a lot about checking in. How am I right now? And this one, setting realistic goals, number 9 is more about like, okay, what is it I want to see for myself? And really the key word here is realistic. Now, ideally we want smart, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. And so for you, what is a realistic goal? Maybe by the end of the year, what do you want to have done? Do you want to have read a certain amount of books? Do you want to have rekindled a relationship? Do you want to have changed jobs or applied for a new job? Whatever. I mean, there's no right answer. Just thinking about for you, what is a way that you will feel good about tying a bow around the year, or tying a bow around, this decade, or tying a bow around this season. So there's no right answer here. Checking in with yourself. The piece that is important is if we don't set goals, then what's our roadmap? Where is our roadmap? We don't have one. And so it's really important that we not only set them, but we celebrate them. And then last but not least is embracing change. Because let me just tell you, midlife is all about change. And I know you guys know this. So it comes with significant life changes. So embracing these as opportunities for growth and development rather than fearing them. Now, I know that is like all well and good. And in theory, that sounds great. But really thinking for you, what would happen if I practiced a little radical acceptance around the changes that are happening in my life in midlife? And the reason I mention that is because Radical Acceptance, which is a book by Tara Brach, for anyone who may be interested, is so powerful as you think about, okay, I'm not agreeing with this. I'm not saying I condone it or I even like it, but I am accepting it versus fighting against it. Now, it doesn't mean, oh, I just accept that, I no longer have a body that works or feels good or, and there's nothing I can do about it. It's like, no, that's not what this is about. It's just accepting that your body is changing. Your body is different. You can't stand maybe as much as you used to be able to stand, right? Particularly if you have a back injury, or you may not be able to do as much gardening, especially if you have arthritis in your thumbs, or to walk as far. And I tell you, since my hip replacement, I've never been good with stairs, but I really struggle getting up stairs. And it's just so frustrating. And as I was going to a recent appointment to follow up with my hip surgeon, and he's on the 5th floor and I like to take the stairs up, I was like, I need to just do this more often where I'm actually getting out and doing stairs regularly. Because if we don't use it, we lose it, right? And I don't have many stairs in my life. And so how can I make sure that I'm keeping that up and also accepting that my hip and my body is just not the same as it once was? All right, so these are my 10 ideas, 10 starting ideas. I'm going to have more for you, all right? But around mental health and midlife, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. So number 1, self-reflection. 2, seeking help or support, we could say. I like that better. It's an alliteration. Number 3, staying active. 4, mindfulness or meditation. 5, healthy diet. 6, prioritize sleep. 7, social connections. 8, manage that stress or it will manage you. 9, setting realistic goals. And 10, embracing change. Thank you so much for tuning in. And just if you have a moment, send me a note. hello@KimberlyWilson.com and let me know what resonated from this podcast or what you're curious about and want to learn more about, because I will be doing more of this for you, of course. Also, I will put a link to the replay of my recent live event that I did, the free live event, Fall Inspiration. Please watch it. Let me know what resonated. Thank you so much for those of you who registered for it and those of you who showed up live. It was an absolute treat to be with you, and I cannot wait to be with you in Paris on October 14th, and then again for Pink Friday on November 24th. Details for all of this at KimberlyWilson.com/616. Also, a gentle reminder to sign up for Love Notes. You can do that at KimberlyWilson.com/love notes. Check out my books and planners. And then, of course, follow along on YouTube and Instagram, where I try to post inspiration regularly. And there's also a link to shop seasonless, vegan, eco-friendly TDJ. And if you have a moment to share a review of this podcast or any of my books, I would be so very grateful. Wishing you a delicious week ahead, and thank you as always for tuning in.